My name is Alina. I am 70 years old. I have reached this stage of life after passing through many painful and difficult moments. My childhood was spent in a village home with muddy streets, earthen floors, fragile walls, a single water tap, a few goats, a wood stove, and dirty dishes lying in the kitchen. All of this was my daily responsibility. I was only 8 years old, but my eyes already carried a lifetime of sorrow. I was living in my uncle and aunt's house, completely at their mercy, constantly listening to their taunts. "Hey, girl, finish your work quickly. We are raising you as a favor, and now we even have to tolerate your attitude?" I remained silent at everything they said because I had grown used to their words. I also knew that if I ever talked back, I would be punished with more work and sometimes even forced to sleep hungry. Inside, I was slowly dying from the hurtful words people said. "She's not their real child, just the memory of a dead brother." Every morning, I would wake up early and begin my chores. First, I would sweep the mud floors, then wash all the dirty dishes under the tap, filling a bucket with water and cleaning each plate. Even after finishing, I was never praised. Instead, some dishes would be taken out again, and I'd be told to wash them once more. After that, I was sent to collect firewood for cooking breakfast. When it was time for breakfast, I was handed one piece of bread and sent to graze the goats. At the same time, my uncle and aunt's children would leave for school with their bags. Watching them filled my heart with sadness, and I would think, if my parents were alive, they would have sent me to school too. Every day, I carried this longing in my heart. I loved studying deeply. When children went to school with their bags, I stood at the door watching them. One day, I could no longer hold back and gathered courage to ask my uncle, "Uncle, can I go to school too?" He lowered his eyes. My aunt replied coldly, "We don't educate servants." Hearing this, I cried silently and missed my parents deeply. I spoke to Allah and said, "If you had taken me with my parents, I wouldn't have had to see these days." In tears, I performed ablution, prayed, and asked, "O Allah, make my difficulty easy and help me." From that day on, I never left my prayers. Time passed, I grew older, but my fate remained the same. My responsibilities increased. Waking up at 5 a.m., cleaning the house, working in the fields, washing dishes, cutting fodder, and feeding the animals. Every day I heard the same sentence, "It's a favor that we've kept you." I was given a small storage room to live in. At night, I secretly picked up the children's books and read them. When they sat for tuition, I listened while working. One habit I never left was prayer and dua. "O Allah, if I am right, then surely grant me my right." Time passed, and my uncle decided to marry me off. My aunt contacted matchmakers. The entire house was under her authority. My uncle could not say anything in front of her. A proposal came from a man who was already married once, had 2 children, and whose wife had passed away. He was wealthy, and my aunt had placed heavy demands, which he accepted. When I learned about this marriage, I cried desperately, but no one listened. I prayed with tears, saying, "O Allah, it would have been better if you had taken me with my parents. I shouldn't have had to see this day." Perhaps my prayer was accepted. One day before the wedding, a white car arrived in the village. People were shocked. "Why is a city car here?" The entire village gathered. The man asked, "Where is Gairis's house?" My uncle became silent and worried because he had taken possession of everything his brother owned, even his daughter, whom he had turned into a servant. The man was directed to our house. He knocked, was invited inside, and served tea. When asked the reason for his visit, he said, "I was Gairis's old friend. We worked together in the city. He told me his wife had passed away and that his daughter was living at her uncle's house. Guy Reese was a great man. I want to meet his daughter. My uncle said, "Of course," and called me. When I came, the man stood up, respectfully placed his head on my head, and looked at me with love, something I had never received in my life. He was disturbed by my condition and realized I was not being treated well. He sent me back and spoke to my uncle privately. In reality, he had come to test my uncle's honesty. He said he had given Guy Reese some money and wanted it returned by selling his property. My uncle's face fell. He replied, "I have nothing of my brother's. Go back to whoever you gave it to." Then he noticed the wedding decorations and asked whose wedding it was. My uncle said it was mine. The man became very upset. He later found out I was being married to a married man with children. He could not tolerate this. He went to the nearest police station and asked for help. He did not reveal that he was a lawyer. When he spoke to my uncle, he realized he was greedy. He left, but then returned with the police. He called my uncle and me and took out a document from his bag, my father's will. He read it aloud. "All my property belongs to my daughter. She is my only heir. If anyone tries to take her rights, they will be guilty before Allah and the law." A deep silence fell. Fear appeared on my uncle and aunt's faces. The house I had served in for years, the land where I grazed goats and cut grass, all of it was mine. There was also property and bank balance in the city. My father had written that until I became an adult, the property should not be transferred. When I heard the will, I was stunned. I looked up, raised my hands, and thanked Allah. My uncle and aunt, who used to call me names, now started calling me daughter. After hearing the will, I stayed silent for a while, then thanked my lawyer. I knew the house was mine, but I chose not to make anyone homeless. Because the pain I had suffered, I did not want to give to anyone else. The first thing I did was refuse the marriage. When I looked into their eyes, there was shame. I transferred the house, where I had spent my painful childhood, into my uncle's name. They were shocked. Their eyes filled with tears, and they hugged me, crying. My uncle said, "I am deeply ashamed of what I did. Please forgive me." Allah had given me a clean heart, so I forgave them sincerely. My Allah is very merciful. He never rejects anyone's prayer. In Allah's court, there is delay, but no injustice. I sold the remaining land and decided to move to the city immediately. My father had left me some cash and property there. I moved and decided to study, something I had always been passionate about. Time passed. I studied until I reached university. When I completed my degree, by Allah's grace, I became a doctor. During that time, I received a marriage proposal from another doctor, which I accepted, and soon after I got married and lived happily in my home. But I missed my parents deeply. I wish they were alive so I could serve them. To fulfill that longing, I opened an old age home where elderly parents came to live, and I served them as a way to honor my parents' absence. Time passed, and Allah blessed me with children, one son and one daughter. The deficiencies I felt in my childhood, I fulfilled through them. I gave them the best education and fulfilled all their rightful needs. 10 years into marriage, my husband died in a road accident. Once again, Allah took away the shelter over my head. First my parents, now my husband. I cried deeply over my loneliness, but then raised my children alone, managed the home alone, and continued serving at the old age home. Due to physical weakness, I grew fragile. Household responsibilities turned the old age home into a duty, something that once had been my dream. Time passed. My children grew up and got jobs. They became busy with their lives. Then one day, I got them married, and they settled happily in their own homes. As time went on, my illnesses increased. I spent some time at my house and some time at the old age home. My blood pressure and sugar levels rose. One night, I was sleeping alone when my sugar dropped suddenly. I had no strength to get up and take medicine. I tried to stand, became dizzy, and fell to the floor. I lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I was in the hospital. I heard my children's voices. I asked, "What happened to me?" They reassured me and said my sugar had dropped, causing me to faint. I said, "I can't see anything." They immediately called the doctor. After examining me, the doctor said, "Diabetes has attacked her eyes and she has lost her vision." My children hugged me and cried. Hearing this, I too was devastated and wept. After some days in the hospital, I was discharged. My children took me to their home. I was very distressed by my dependency. My son and son-in-law had taken leave from their jobs for some time. But how long could they do that? They eventually decided to admit me to an old age home. And finally, I was admitted to the very old age home that I had opened for the sake of Allah. I never knew that one day it would become a mercy for me. When my children went to work, they left me there. And when they returned, they took me back. This became my routine. Allah never lets anyone's effort go to waste. The old age home I built became my support in old age. That is why they say, do good and good will come to you.